Hey KU fans, thanks for logging on to KUsports.com for this week's episode of KU Sports Extra. I'm Matt Tait, he's Tom Keegan, and we're here to talk about the week that was and the week that will be in KU Sports. Tom, we usually start this thing off with some good news in KU Sports, but I think for obvious reasons, and you guys know what I'm talking about, we're going to start with the bad news first. And we're going to let you start it off. Tom, what's the bad news surrounding KU Sports right now?
Well, the bad news is that Charlie Weiss pointed to the Duke game as a real indicator. All the fans pointed to the Duke game as a real indicator. Charlie Weiss sounded confident, and Charlie Weiss could not have been more wrong. From the opening snap, that team was awful, lost 41-3, and worse. It's clear after that game that Montel Cozart is nowhere near ready for Big 12 competition, and it was so raw, his performance, that you have to wonder if he needs a redshirt year next year. So on all levels, that was just a really big bummer.
Yeah, it was the result they couldn't have. It had to be a good game, it had to be competitive, and it wasn't either of those things. It was bad news.
It was bad news, and I'm trying to figure out what good news is, and I couldn't, so then I'm just going to throw it to you. What's the good news?
I like the good news this week because the good news is, thank goodness that Walter Camp, the inventor of football, the father of American football, invented the game with just 4 quarters instead of 5 or 6, because could anybody imagine having to watch the KU Duke game for a 5th or a 6th quarter? That might have been bad news in its own way.
Duke fans would like, but I'm impressed that you knew who the inventor of football was.
I might have looked it up.
You weren't even born yet.
No, it was close. I was born in 1978, and this was around 1878. So just right around the corner from there. But
I was just a baby.
Good news, though. Thank goodness we didn't have to watch, because by the time that one was over, we were ready to race down to the press box, or the post-game press conference, and find out what happened. And we didn't really get to, because Montel Cozart wasn't even available. That was very disappointing. He did talk earlier this week. Finally, he had to make a statement to get some things off his chest and to let everybody know, hey, I'm not happy with how I played. I'm not accepting that. And good for the young man to do that, because he's still a young man. He should have been able to do it after the game, though.
He's got some ability, just doesn't know how to use it yet.
Yeah, that was a bad move not making him available. But
real bad move, especially after the coach talked about everybody has to take accountability.
Right.
And then you hide the quarterback.
Right, definitely. Lost in translation, Tom. Let's go ahead and move into that one. Another one from KU football coach Charlie Weiss this week. I bet you're not surprised. Let's have a listen.
There's a couple guys that looked like they're more looking at the opposing the stadium, and really it wasn't a very intimidating place. Now there's about 25,000 people there. They're far away from you. It wasn't loud. I mean, so there really was nothing to be intimidated about. I mean, you're playing against a nice, solid team.
Translation, if these guys were scared in Durham playing against a basketball school, what's going to happen when we go to Waco? What's going to happen when we go to Norman? And both those schools are looking to run up style points, hoping to get into that 4-team playoff for which college football doesn't yet have a name. Come on. Hockey's got the Frozen Four. Basketball's got the Final Four. Come up with a name for it. If you're wondering where Matt Tait is, he just caught a train at Terrapin Station, headed for Breakdown Street, and he's about to exit right now.
Breakdown Street is right. Let's talk about the quick matchup with Central Michigan this week, or let's quickly talk about the matchup with Central Michigan. I doubt it'll be very quick. It might be, though, because a lot of these teams are going to run the football. Both teams are going to pound away. Charlie Weiss called Central Michigan an old-school football team. I talked to a lot of these KU football defensive players. What does that mean to you? They all said, power running, draws, traps, ISOs, the wishbone is what Keon Stowers said. I thought that was pretty cool. So they're ready for a physical football game, and I think the biggest thing that will be a key in this game is that. Will KU be able to match Central Michigan's physicality? Both teams were drubbed last week, 41-3 for the Jayhawks. You guys know that. Central Michigan lost 40-3 to Syracuse. I doubt this one will be 1-0, but if you do the comparative scoring thing, maybe so. But I do think the physicality will be the biggest thing, and not just at the line, not just with the linebackers, but everywhere. Wide receivers, running backs running harder. I think a physical matchup is going to be very interesting to see if these guys that are still a little fragile, still a little reeling over that Duke game, even though they say they've moved on, can they get up? Can they get ready for that physical play that they're going to see this weekend?
Well, football is a physical sport, so I don't think you should wait till you play a physical opponent to have physical practices.
Probably right.
There's a chance that maybe they don't have physical practices often enough, which is an NFL way of doing things, and should always have the type practices that they had this week.
Yeah, they did turn it up a notch. And in the NFL, it's a 53-man roster, so there's some reason behind that. In college, they got 100-plus guys. They should be hitting. I'm with you 100% on that one.
And that's how you learn, when you actually hit and you're hitting another first stringer instead of going against the scout team all the time, which they did more first against first this week.
Physical or not, let's think about this game, Tom. Central Michigan at Kansas. Prediction time. What do you got?
I have Central Michigan winning this one 14-13. I'm not going to tell you how the 13 has arrived, but, man, is it going to be a bummer.
Yeah, that's shades of Louisiana Tech. The Matthew Wyman becomes a hero game that really kind of glossed over the fact that was a pretty bad win. I mean,
you know what? They've had 5 wins under Charlie Weiss. One of them was a good win.
Right.
West Virginia.
Right.
The other 4 were bad wins, if you can say that. They were unimpressive against bad teams.
Yeah.
By small margins.
Right. 5-21 now is where they stand. I've got Central Michigan winning as well. I've got it 27-17. I think KU gets off to a good start. I think they do start well. I think their emotions, save for Duke, I guess I'm kind of making myself look like a fool there because that snap was not a good start. But I think the emotions of being back home and getting up for one more game that they have to win will be there early. But I think Central Michigan is the kind of team that's just going to keep beating on them and beating on them and beating on them. And I just don't know if this team has enough energy and heart and fight. I think they do as individuals, but are they going to show up and play for that?
Central Michigan's not a very good team, so this would be a bad loss, and it wouldn't be a great win. Central Michigan's top player is suspended, very unlikely to play.
Right, Thomas Rawls, the
running back who allegedly went into a casino and saw an open purse and hatched a plan with his buddies that he would sit on the open purse so nobody would see that there was one. And then when nobody's looking, put it in a bag, and then they went and used the credit card at a gas station. The problem is, shockingly, there are surveillance cameras at casinos, and I guess Thomas and his pals didn't stop to think that there might be surveillance cameras at casinos, including in the elevators.
Right, and forget his running style and that he entered last week leading the nation in carries. They're going to be missing that intelligence on the field, Central Michigan is. Yeah. So how do they win a game without a guy like that kind of showing them the way? Enough about that. Let's move on to our prime time pick. Last week, you said Nick Harwell. He didn't do a whole lot. That wasn't his fault. I said Ja'Cory Shepherd. He did do a lot, but it didn't really do much. So I don't think really either one of us got that right. Who do you got this week?
Well, I think that Montel Cozart feels as if he owes Tony Pearson one, and he's going to be looking for him all day, and he'll hit him a few times, and Tony will take care of the rest. He might hit a D-back who's jumping the route because he'll know that he's looking for Tony all day, but that's the cost of doing business. So I'm going to go with Tony Pearson.
You love that guy.
Love him.
All right. I'm going on the other side of the ball. I'm going to go with Keon Stowers. I mentioned him a minute ago. Keon has faced double team after double team after double team this year. He said against Duke they played 77 snaps on defense. He played 47 of those snaps, and 27 of those he saw a double team. So they're moving him around. He didn't give anything away, but they're going to move him around, try to find some room for him on the line this week to maybe get in one-on-one matchups and open some things up for him to make a play. He's a big physical guy. He might be their most physical guy up front, and they need that this week. I don't know what kind of performance he's going to have. I don't think he's going to have 2 or 3 sacks or 25 tackles or anything like that, but I think you will hear his name called, and I think you'll hear it called a lot, and I think this guy's ready for this game because he's tired of being double-teamed, and I don't blame him. So I'm going to go with Keon Stowers this week as my prime time pick. Tom, it's time for everybody's favorite part of KU Sports Extra, the most obnoxious man in sports this week. Who do you have?
I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Phillies closer, Jonathan Papelbon, who's having a good year until he just made an obscene gesture at the fans for getting booed. He tugged at his crotch. He's a pitcher. Doesn't he know that move is trademarked by third baseman? It's for a legitimate reason. They're adjusting their protection because all those line shots that come down, that's why they call it the hot corner. Leave that to them. Don't go there. And then he loses it on Joe West, the umpire, an old friend of mine, and Joe ends up grabbing him by the shirt just to keep him back, and Joe gets suspended. Come on, Papelbon, he's suspended for 7 days. Just keep your hand on the baseball.
He's good at that.
He's really good. He's having a great year.
Yeah.
But he was obnoxious this week.
There you go, obnoxious pick number 1. My obnoxious pick goes to Arkansas State football coach Blake Anderson, who inexplicably called for a fake punt that included one of his players instructed to drop dead on the field, or at least fake like he dropped dead. I get it. He said, hey, these guys have been through 5 coaches in 5 years, and he just wanted to have something that they could have a laugh about and have some fun. It's not a bad effort, but there's really nothing funny about that. You hear about kids dropping on the field with serious medical conditions all the time. The play was called the fainting goat, and I think maybe if you would have done something a little different and made it look like an animal or something, but to have a guy grab his heart like this and actually act like he's falling back dead, I don't like it. I think that's pretty obnoxious. The funny thing about it, though, the pass from the punter was intercepted. The play didn't work. I think that's karma,
that's
Blake
poetic
Anderson.
Justice.
Yeah.
But as you said, they've been through a lot, 5 coaches in 5 years, but that's not going to scar you for life. This might scar you for life.
Yeah. So, anyway, most obnoxious man in sports, Arkansas State coach Blake Anderson and Phillies closer Jonathan Papelbon. Thanks for checking out KU Sports Extra again this week. We'll be back next week with all kinds of information and some new picks for you. In the meantime, keep coming to KUsports.com for all our coverage of KU football and the big game this weekend with Central Michigan. And make no mistake about it, it is a big game. For Tom Keegan, I'm Matt Tait. We'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks for checking out this episode.